I am deathly afraid of the sort of deep, dark ocean horror, that sort of Cthulhu.
Well, and that's why we paired this with. That's why we paired this with Night Owl.
This has been a great experience in my horror. Hello and welcome to Every Edition, your tabletop RPG talk show. I'm Jesse.
I'm John.
And today, for our Loot the Body, we're taking a look at Call of the Netherdeep, the latest Critical Role 5th edition book.
We are. And our random encounter today, we are going to be talking with Night Owl Publishing. And we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. Aquatic Adventures. We're going to be talking about Meatlandia. We're going to be talking about Old School and Cool. We're going to be talking about Tuberdudes. Lots of great stuff for old school essentials, Dungeons and Dragons.
And of course, we have our morale check where we take a look at all things new in the RPG world. So, John, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I recently took a trip to the Complete Strategist, which is a tabletop role-playing game and wargaming store. That's there are two locations, I believe, one in New York City and one in King of Prussia. And I think there were more locations before, but those are the two that are still around today. And man, it was a trip down memory lane, because I remember my dad taking me to the Complete Strategist in King of Prussia when I was a kid.
Sure.
And I remember finding Arabian Nights packs of magic together. There, I bought I think 2 packs of Arabian Nights, which I still have. And I can just remember poring over books in there, and I went there with my family. And I almost wept. I'm not exaggerating.
Had it changed any?
No. It was just so beautiful. Like it was the closest you can come to time travel. Like it was amazing. And I just emptied my wallet. I was like, I want this place to stay open, and so you better believe I'm going to buy a lot of games and a lot of stuff. And they had some stuff on the shelves that was, I guess you would call it vintage, or,
sure, yeah.
They were like, it's old stock. I'm like, it's beautiful. So totally worth a visit, folks. If you get a chance to check out the Complete Strategist, what a great, friendly local gaming shop experience. Just incredible. And I hope you guys are watching. I love you, Complete Strategist. I'm going to be back. What a great store.
That's awesome.
Jesse, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm sort of gearing up for the next campaign in my homebrew world.
Oh,
it's features John from Every Edition. I don't know if you're aware of him.
That guy's cool.
But it's not. So I'm taking a different approach than I would a normal homebrew campaign. We're definitely taking a not quite a West Marches style, but we're going to have like mini arcs.
Yeah.
There's not going to be some sort of overarching epic 20 level tale happening. So being in that space of thinking about a bunch of different things that we could do, I've been world building to sort of fuel that. So I have things for us to do, places for us to go.
That's cool.
So I've been doing a lot of world building lately, and that's my bread and butter.
No, and pull back the curtain. I hope that we work in some Journey Through the Radiant Citadel, and definitely some Spelljammer. Like that's, and I also think, pulling back the curtain too, like our previous campaign went for over 2 years, and we did Out of the Abyss, right, which was wonderful. Yep. And then we did, after Out of the Abyss, we did Against the Giants, right, from Yawning Portal.
Yes.
Which was 5th edition update of the classic Against the Giants module. And so that was really fun, but it was what it was. And I think you're sort of thinking you want to be a little bit more open.
Yeah.
Open in terms of storytelling, and not as confined to a campaign book.
Yes.
Right?
I think the Yawning Portal was still in the phase of 5th edition where things were still pretty strict. They weren't so open as they are now. And like you said, it was an update of a previous module, so they did have some restrictions. And I tried to make it my own and our own, and I think we did a good job of using that as like a way to keep playing your characters after a campaign. But utilizing the journey through the Radiant Citadel at various points when we're playing, and Spelljammer, I think is definitely on the table.
Awesome. Yeah. I can't wait. All right, it's time for a morale check. Morale checks are when we take a look at the tabletop role-playing game industry and news of the time. So first up, Torg Eternity, which is put out by Ulysses Spiel, a German company. They've announced that they are going to be kickstarting their Pan Pacifica expansion to the game on May the 12th. So coming up here, it's going to be the 8th crowdfunding that they've done for Torg Eternity. And for those of you that don't know, Torg is a role-playing game from the 90s that was originally put out by West End Games. And it's all about sort of different universes, different cosms, as they're called, invading the Earth and bringing their reality, their existence, their world, and imposing it on Earth. And so you have these different pockets of universes all over the Earth.
As in, like, Space Marines in one area, High Elves in another area.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, pull back the curtain. The whole point of the game is that you can play any kind of character, whether it's a superhero or Indiana Jones type or an elf or dwarf, like magic,
and all
high
in
tech,
the same party.
Everything, and all in the same party. It's a great game. It captured my imagination as a kid. Happily staying on top of the latest incarnation of the game. So Pan Pacifica, in the original 90s game, it was called Nippon Tech. And so it's gotten an update, a fresh coat of paint. It's the world of sort of corporate and feudal Japan. So we'll see, what they do in terms of the updates. It's the last of the original cosms that needs to come out with a core book and stuff. There are other places that they could take the game if they want to continue to expand it. But once this set comes out for Pan Pacifica, essentially the game is all but out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of books. So I'm excited for this Kickstarter. Like I said, it's their 8th. And it could be the last throes of the game. They're still they could do Space Gods or Land Below or Terra, but really those are all just sort of like they're not fully fleshed out cosms.
Sure.
So we'll see. Torg Eternity, Pan Pacifica Kickstarter coming out May 12th.
In Magic related news, Magic the Gathering, the latest set, Streets of New Capenna, has come out. This, I bring it up always, Magic, because I think Magic and D&D have a very clear pathway. And obviously in 5th edition they have. I really thought that we were going to get a Kamigawa book from the previous set, the like cyberpunk setting. This one, it would just be really awesome if we got. So Streets of New Capenna is like a 1920s noir setting.
Oh.
But it's a sort of setting run by 5 different like demon mob boss families.
Okay. So
you could get a little bit of like Vampire the Masquerade in there, and I think it could just be a really fun setting to play D&D in. So I'm really excited about that. And additionally, from Magic, the next set is going to be the Commander Legends Baldur's Gate series. So more actual D&D Magic crossover and more D&D art, because that the Magic cards are really great for giving us more art and more lore.
Yeah.
And deeper dive into Baldur's Gate and where we're at now.
Sounds fun. In other news, Renegade Games announced that there is going to be a new My Little Pony role-playing game. Not to be confused with the River Horse game, Tales of Equestria, which is already out and available. This is going to be, obviously a Hasbro licensed game coming out from Renegade Games, and it's going to follow the Power Rangers game, which is out, the G.I. Joe game, which is just came out, and coming soon, the Transformers game. So this will be the 4th in their Essence 20 line. I think the most exciting thing about this is the potential to mix up all of those.
Sure.
That's what I think ultimately will be cool about Essence 20 if it can be done.
Have like a Torg sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a My Little Pony and a Power Ranger. And
exactly. Yep. Yeah. That's really, I think, what everybody wants. Otherwise, I mean, I've looked at the Power Rangers game, and it looks really hyper specialized in terms of lore. So like, you have to be a power head.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what they're called if you're a Power Rangers fan?
I have no idea. Sorry, they're just called Power Rangers, I guess.
I'm going to call them Power Heads. You got to be a Power Head. You got to really love Power Rangers.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you have 5 people that like really love Power Rangers and you can get together, man, I bet this game is rocking. I don't think you're going to get anybody kind of similar to the Star Trek game.
Yeah. Anybody new.
It's not going to turn on anybody new. It really is meant for nostalgia and meant for people who are already fans.
And that's good.
That's great.
It's good to have that.
That's great. I'd love to get a game of the G.I. Joe with a bunch of hardcore G.I. Joe fans. Yeah. I'm definitely one. But you never, but it is very super specialized. It's not going to bring anybody new to the game. Books are beautiful. The Power Rangers book is beautiful. But I haven't played it yet or tried it out yet, so I can't speak to the rules at all. But new My Little Pony game in keeping with the Essence 20 line, coming soon after the Transformers, and who knows, there'll probably be a fifth. Are we going to get the Gem book?
That'd be awesome.
Let's go. That actually would be better than all like a Gem. The Gem and the Holograms book, based on the cartoon. That could be fun.
So lastly, Marvel has released a playtest of their upcoming RPG tabletop game.
Yeah.
It is currently out. It is $9.99 for the playtest. It is the size of a regular graphic novel put out by Marvel. Fantastic. It has character creation in it. It has a one-shot in it. And it has pre-gen characters that are all your favorite superheroes. Like all the Avengers. There's a couple X-Men, Spider-Man, all that. It's super surprising when it came in and I looked at it. It's super well formatted.
Yeah.
It has a really awesome character creation system in the playtest already.
Yep.
It has a really interesting adventure, and you get to play as a superhero.
Yep.
And you get to create your own superhero with this really awesome dice. I think when a couple episodes ago we had talked about it sort of lightly, but it does have its own unique dice system where you roll 3d6s, and the sort of like cheeky crit is if you roll a 616 because all of Marvel stuff takes place on Earth 616.
Right.
I really like that. That's really awesome. I'm looking forward to playtesting it. We're gonna get a group together and playtest our superheroes.
Oh yeah, we're bringing this to the table right away. This rocketed to the front of the pack
the queue,
pretty quickly. Yeah, it's a 3d6 system. Cool. Let's try. And it basically, from what I read from the rules, the 3d6 are essentially like replacing the roll of a d20.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's basic. It's almost a 1-for-1 kind of swap. It's a little bit of a gimmick with the 616 thing. Yeah, cool.
So when we play that, we'll have probably some like spoiler talking about our thoughts about the game and whatnot.
Looking forward to it. Priced right.
Yeah, $10.
$10.
Heck yeah. So I'm really excited about the Marvel RPG playtest and creating a superhero. So if you're also excited, maybe leave us a comment about what kind of character that you would want to create in a Marvel superhero RPG, and or maybe you've always really wanted to play as Black Panther. And this does have a pre-gen for Black Panther. So leave us a comment or drop us a line over at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com and check out our socials at everyeditionrpg.com.
Don't miss on page 12 of the Marvel playtest, Peter Parker is a pre-generated character. All the other pre-gens are in the back.
Oh, and like in their own section.
So you got 10 in the back and then Peter Parker's in the front for an 11th pre-generated character. So there you go. Don't miss it. We'll definitely have an episode coming soon about our experience with the Marvel playtest. And you can leave your feedback not only here, but also the Marvel game wants your feedback. There's a form that you can fill out once you play the game to give them some feedback, and hopefully they take what you say and make the game better. All right, it's time for a random encounter. Today's random encounter, we have Night Owl Publishing with us. We've got Ahimsa and Wind. Hi, guys.
Hello.
What's up?
Hi.
So if
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. If you could introduce yourselves to everybody, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll start. My name is Wind Lothamer, and I do artwork and layout and sometimes a little bit of writing for Night Owl Publishing.
Yep, and I'm Ahimsa. I do writing, sometimes layout for like little things, and I come up with really weird stuff that Wind's like, let's just tone that down a little bit. Which Wind is actually pretty weird, so that's saying something.
That's saying something.
Like Meatlandia, for instance.
Yeah. Well, you guys definitely have an incredible roster of very creative works, and I'm hoping we can touch on a lot of them today. But first, like, what's your origin story? How did you guys team up or get together? How did Night Owl Publishing get started?
Yeah, in a word, it's transfers.
Okay.
So Wind and I go way back. We went to middle school together, and Wind's brother and I in high school made the Transfers role-playing game, and we printed it up on like a dot matrix printer. Cool. And I found it maybe 8 years ago and showed it to Wind, and he's like, this was pretty cool. And so we kind of redid it, and we're like, oh yeah, but we can't really just do a Transfers role-playing game. We should make our own game. And instantly that was Meatlandia.
Fantastic. Nice. So Transfers, that's based on the movie, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was the 90s. It was just like a home game. We just made up a system for it. And I mean, we did actually made up some other games before that, actually. He made a cyberpunk. Would you call it cyberpunk?
Yeah. Yeah, cyberpunk for sure. Superhero steampunk.
Superhero steampunk. Cool.
Yeah.
So you found this old game that was made, and it sort of rekindled something for the two of you?
That's exactly it. Yeah, we're just kind of like, well, we could do that in high school. Maybe we could do something better now.
Wonderful. Cool. So
we put together Meatlandia, and I don't know how far back you guys go with it, but our first go at it was kind of rough around the edges, and so we refined it a couple of times, and I think we finally hit on a style and a system that works for us.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Now just having fun, kind of expanding that universe.
How did you end up? So most of your products that are put out by Night Owl Publishing, it looks like they're for old school essentials. Mm-hmm. So how did you land there in terms of that being your go-to compatible system?
I can take that. I kind of forced Ahimsa to do old school essentials. We didn't have a system. We were totally homebrew, just nuts, whatever we thought was cool. And we realized, people let us know after we did Meatlandia that nobody else was doing that same homebrew system, and so it didn't make sense.
Okay.
And so, we realized after that we had to find a system and just kind of fit our stuff to that. And so Gavin was doing the BX essentials back then.
Right.
And I love BX because it was just so clean, so stripped down, and there wasn't anybody else's stuff kind of fit in on top of it. So we could just take the rules and just make our own world out of it. Whereas, a lot of the other things, they're kind of BX, but it's also somebody else's idea of, what is going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of the lingua franca of at least of the D&D world. That's it.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's intuitive. It's rules light. It's
super light.
It makes sense. So do you guys, in terms of as creators, do you see yourselves sort of as world builders first? Is that what drives you?
Yeah, I think that's accurate to say. Yeah, I think we kind of start with the big ideas and then sort of chisel away from there.
Yeah, when we did Black Blade of the Demon King, we actually started. I spent about 3 months doing artwork, and I just kept sending the artwork to Ahimsa, and I was like, "Look at this stuff. This is cool. We gotta do something." And just drawing pictures. And then he built this roster of characters around that, and then kind of built the story. So totally backwards design, right?
Sure.
But that's our approach. We're, we like to get the feel of the place first, and then kind of find a story that fits for it.
Excellent.
Yeah, the world building definitely speaks a lot to me as a homebrew DM. I really like world building, and you can really tell when a game is okay. Yeah, we want to use this system and build some sort of game around it, or we want people to play in this world. Let's try to figure out which system works best for that. So at least in terms of Meatlandia, that speaks miles to me, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. What are the primary influences for Meatlandia? Where did it come from?
Well, I think originally we were actually playing a Rifts game, and
Yeah.
and if you know Rifts, it's totally nuts and gonzo.
Sure.
And I was GMing, and I brought Ahimsa. I won't get into the details because it gets really bizarre, but I brought Ahimsa and my brother Orion into Meatlandia, where this battle was going on between the Meat Lord and the Rust Lord, and they got kind of thrust right in the middle of it. And it was a lot of fun. We had fun. We brought the Meat Lord back into, back to Earth, and it got really nasty with a giant meat mech and stuff. And, we had fun with it. So we wanted to take it further and see what we could do with it.
What is your official stance on ascending or descending armor class?
Ascending is just better, I think.
Okay.
It's just better. I mean, like, I grew up with descending, but like, it just seems like an improvement to me. It's like it's a watch versus a sundial.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Wind, you have a...
I do play in a friend's Hyperborea game, and we use the descending AC and the 2-hit tables and all that stuff, and it's kind of fun. There's something cool about that, but nobody ever has any idea what the heck they're doing.
Yeah. What does Thaco mean? Come on.
Well, and I think it'd be fun to do just as a novelty.
Yeah.
Like it is, But no, I think I'm in the same camp that it's ascending. It's just makes things a little bit easier.
I think if you play with new players, especially, like, you can explain that, and you can't really explain descending. It gets base 19, carry the 20, and they're just like, just tell me what it is.
Does it hit? Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
So you guys seem to have a pretty deep experience with tabletop role playing games. Like, what are some of your earliest memories of playing tabletop role playing games?
You want to start?
Yeah, sure. We played a lot, like, in high school. We were in a small town in Southern Oregon, and it wasn't like you could just order anything, off Amazon. So it's kind of like you'd go into, like, the big city and see what you could find, or we make up a lot of our own games as well. But I think, like, we did Stormbringer, Elric. We did Earth Dawn, Rifts. Kind of like like, you're kind of omnivorous as a teenager. You're just kind of like, oh, a new game, a new system. I'll just learn that instantly and play it. So like, whatever we could get to the table, we would get to the table.
Cool.
Yeah, that Stormbringer game was awesome. I don't know if you guys have ever played it.
No.
It's Chaosium's, like, old Elric system, and it was kind of like, what was the fantasy game they ran? The
RuneQuest.
RuneQuest.
Yeah, it was kind of like RuneQuest, but it was all demonic and, like, just super brutal and twisted. It was messed up, but cool. It was fun.
Nice. Did you guys ever total non sequitur? Did you guys ever play Torg?
I was just listening to someone talk about it, but I've never played it. No.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome, though.
We've talked about it twice now.
I love it. Like, it grabbed me in the early 90s when I was a kid. Like, I just couldn't. It captured my imagination, and it's back. It's like the game is super crunchy. It's just like a lot of, you're like, cards and rules, and you have a different DM screen every time you're in a different cosm, like a different universe,
right,
and like it's just so many, like it's just the crunchiest mathy. Like, you have to have people that want to play the game and like are okay with rules. You know, and that's we're getting smaller and smaller every with every passing moment. So.
We tried really hard to play the James Bond 007 game.
Oh,
from the early 80s.
Yeah.
That was one of those where you just had pages and pages of tables and charts, and I was like, I have no idea. I do not know how to do this.
We played it with Rhesus in the end. That solved everything.
You played it with Reese's peanut butter cups or what?
The Rhesus, like the anything RPG, you know.
Yeah.
That's John Ross. That's an amazing game. I love that one.
So congratulations, guys!
Congrats.
You just kickstarted Aquatic Adventures. That was awesome. Tell us about your experience with the latest Kickstarter.
It was fun. It's been really cool. We kind of came at it with we were like, okay, we're going to step away from Meatlandia for a little while and try to do something totally different. So that's the idea here. And actually, originally we were planning to do like a series of adventures, like maybe 5 different adventures put together into one collection. And so I started writing Dug Too Deep, which is the adventure in Aquatic Adventures.
Right.
And which is an underwater adventure. And it like kind of, Ahimsa and I both realized that there were no rules for running. And like in OSE, there's no rules. In AD&D, the rules are like really kind of weird and chaotic and in different places. So we said, you know what, we're writing all these rules and stuff. And we said, let's just make this Aquatic Adventures and we'll do the other adventures at some other time. So
very cool.
It's terrifying. We were talking about other sort of underwater adventures, and like I'm really excited about Aquatic Adventures, but you know, as a DM, I get to sort of, you know, get into that sort of horror space. But yeah, it's terrifying. But also sweet. So
what are you?
I was gonna say, sorry, most of our stuff, like you can see a lot of the literary influences. Like you can see Frank Herbert, you could see Edgar Rice Burroughs. This one was literally just watching like deep sea creature videos on YouTube and being like, that is a cool monster.
That's true.
I also love that there's so many magic items. I'm a very liberal magic item giver, and this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
We went off the deep end with the magic.
Okay.
I gotcha. So when I think of your body of work so far with Night Owl Publishing, I think of interesting character classes. So any whether it's the Chaos DJ in Meatlandia or Space Dwarves in Old School and Cool. What in Aquatic Adventures? It says that there's going to be 8 new aquatic classes. Can you give us one that's gonna get us hype for what's coming?
I'll give you one, and maybe Wynn has one as well. But I think the Sinzarakan is pretty cool. It's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like like an underwater Elric. They're like the ancient species that sort of invented language.
Okay.
And they use their own magic called lingomancy. They're sort of the words that like originated language, so they kind of have power. So they have their own little tiny like word spell book. And they're pretty cool. Like they don't have a city; they just travel around and like have kind of floating markets and stuff. And they're just sort of itinerant, nigh immortal, superhumans.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I saw that lingomancy, and I was like, oh, what's that going to be? What's that all about? That's so nice. Cool.
Yeah, we've been playing some sessions with lingomancy, and it's been really fun. It's weird, and it's like a new magic form. It's like we don't have all the angles. Like we're like, I have no idea what a player is going to actually do with these spells and stuff. And so it's really fun. It's cool and different and exciting. It's pretty cool.
Excellent.
We're playing with, you might know Brad Kerr, and he just like saw some sharks and he was just like, momf, and he sent 3 sharks sailing up out of the water, up into the sky, so high enough that when they fell, they like took fall damage from falling back down. Nice. And I was just like, oh man, that's cool. Like it works.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. Oh, I'm excited to try that. That sounds great.
Yeah, I will say this: when it comes to all those crazy classes, that weird stuff, that's all Ahimsa. This stuff just comes from him. He's a master of coming up with that stuff. So
I'm always bored with this. Like, here's a new game, and you can be a fighter, or a wizard, or a thief, and I'm kind of like, okay, but like I already know a lot of games that have that. So why don't we have some other
mix
options?
it up a little bit?
Yeah,
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Chaos DJ. Yeah, because it is, I think, it shines amongst all the others. And we didn't even talk about when we previously talked about Meatlandia. I said, oh, I love the Chaos DJ, but I didn't talk about the fourth wall breaking. So can you tell for the people who are just learning about Meatlandia and this particular class, can you tell us about the Chaos DJ and the fourth wall breaking that the Chaos DJ does?
Yeah, Chaos DJ is, if you don't know, they have a playlist at the beginning, and you write down 3 real songs. You have to play it and use the lyrics as magic. And I thought that magic's already breaking the fourth wall, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, completely. But music is so, as a DM, if you say like the word hurricane, your players are going to be like, rock me like a hurricane. Like it's already kind of built into the game,
Exactly.
So I kind of wanted to just channel that a little bit. And like, once you're going to break the fourth wall, like you don't want to tap it, right? You want to shatter that thing. So if you're going to break it right. So yeah, it's just kind of put as much fourth wall breaking stuff in there as possible. That's not going to be to everyone's taste, but there's lots of other options too. So if you want something kind of weird, then it's there.
Awesome.
And then as the Chaos DJ levels up, eventually they figure out what's going on, and they just
walk away. Yeah.
So that's the part.
Yeah, I would say it's really fun. We've played with them a lot, and as a DM, you like kind of start to describe an encounter, and everybody's getting into it, and there's like this energy, and then you hear somebody just like a song just starts playing on their phone or whatever, and it's like the whole game just stops, and you're just listening to the song, and then at the end it's like, okay, so what just happened, right? Because then you have to describe it. Yeah. You gotta say, and it's cool. It's so fun. It adds a whole different dimension to the game.
Yeah.
The very first play test, Wynn just played like a Katy Perry song and made a bunch of worm witches be his friend. Like it was totally unexpected. Like it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I love the open-endedness of the spell cast of the magic using song lyrics. The one thing that Jesse and I talk about this that not a huge fan of with 5e is that magic is so safe and so predictable. Yeah. Right. And so this really gets it back to magic being magical,
unpredictable.
Right? Unpredictable and open to interpretation. Like I can remember, playing in the 90s, playing 2nd edition, and like trying to like finagle stuff with the spells, and like reading the spell descriptions and being like, well, I think I could do this with it, right? And that eventually like being part of the cooperative role-playing experience, and that's kind of gone now. It's very like, it does 4 points of damage, and it it affects this area, and to me that gets really I know the thesis behind it is like game balance, but it also becomes just so bland.
Yeah, very bland.
Yeah. And there's like 800 spells, and there's one different spell for every different thing that you could think of.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I love that's what speaks to me about the Chaos DJ is like, oh, so I can interpret the song lyrics and kind of say what I'd like to have happen, and then the game master or dungeon master gets their sort of twist on it and turn, and whoa, that's what magic's supposed to be, right?
And role-playing games are at their heart a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Between the players and the DM, and so it's just sort of another layer on that, which I think could be nice.
Yeah, I love too that you understand like that kind of joking and reciting of movie quotes and song lyrics is just something that happens anyway when you get together with your
can't stop it
with your
Can't
friends. So
stop it.
Yeah, bring it into the game. we had a friend who did that with song lyrics anyway before we knew about the Chaos DJ, and so he said like by the power of Foreigner, you're as cold as ice, and would do stuff like that. So it's perfect. It's perfect. No, and so
I have to admit our first draft of that book was called Nothing But Bards, and Ahimsa's concept was it was just a whole game full of bards.
That sounds awesome. But also like nothing will ever get done.
Right.
Yeah, if you're into like that crazy weird magic, you just wait till you see the Old School and Cool 3, because we took it up to like the top level.
Yeah, so I recently backed Old School and Cool Volume 3 as well, and I can't wait to get my hands on that. When is that coming out, and what can we look forward to in that volume?
It's at the printers right now.
Great.
So, our release date, I think, was sometime in June, and it looks like we'll probably beat that a little bit. And
nice.
It's good. It's really good. I'm really excited about it, actually. So we took the idea of high-level play in BX, and we're kind of like, okay, we want to do something high-level, but, we have, like, the old BX books, and it's like, first of all, getting to, like, level 14 it's really
rough.
Yeah. And then after you pass it, you're kind of like, okay, so it's just the same thing over and over again, and, it doesn't change, and it takes 100 million XP, and so we just topped it out. We said, you know what, after max level, we're just going to add one more level. It's level X. And and it is just the ultimate level. So you get to level X, your ultimate level, and you get, like these new classes basically that bring in the level.
Every
X.
class/race gets a sort of a choice of ascended or descended. So like the wizard can become either sort of like an uber powerful, almost like angelic wizard, or can become basically like a soul sucking despicable. So all of them kind of can have a path that they choose. And it's crazy. The mantra for that book was like, there's no such thing as OP. So there's just insane stuff in there. But like, I think like you playing the game that night to have a good story to tell the next day, right? So I think like for me, that's more important than sort of game balance. I mean, game balance can be important too, but I want there to be like stories that come out. And if like there's the thief, one of the thieves can just like, it's insane. Like I felt disgusting writing it because he can assemble a crew of just thieves and they attack collectively, and I forget what they do, but it's like 1d8 times 1,000 damage. They're just an army. Like,
sounds great. I can't wait.
Awesome.
Can't wait. Yeah. So everybody has an X level, and then you pick it branches to either something really positive or something really good, ultimate good, or ultimate bad. Yeah. Okay.
More or less. Yeah.
More or less.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. What else is in Old School and Cool Volume 3 that we can look forward to?
Well, for Jesse, we have a huge assortment of just overpowered artifact magic items.
Yes.
So,
but they do all have the traditional like they're really good, but they'll mess you up.
Yeah, like a drawback, like a good drawback. Yeah.
But some god level stuff. So like god level armor and weapons and various other accoutrements.
There's also I think it's one of our, it's like a what do you call it, not a hex crawl, a point crawl, a little point crawl adventure. It's only like 4 or 5 pages long.
Okay.
But I think it's like, it's pretty legit. I think like this, I think Old School and Cool 3 for us is we think it's better than the first 2.
Nice.
Anyway, like it really, we love the first 2. Like we think we did fine, but I think it's fair to say this one feels like almost like a step up.
Great.
Yes. The adventure, by the way, was based on the Highlander. So.
Oh, okay.
It's called "Don't Lose Your Head." It's not hidden like too much.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So I want to go back to Meatlandia for a second. How do you guys describe Meatlandia to somebody who's never heard of Meatlandia before? Like, what's your elevator pitch for Meatlandia?
Well, I think, first of all, I want to say, like, each of the Meatlandia books kind of fills a different a different stage in that whole apocalypse sort of journey. So the Worm Witch is like the pre-apocalypse, and then Meatlandia is during the apocalypse. It's happening kind of as you're playing. And then Scornlords is like your post-apocalyptic world. So even though they're like all happening at the same time in the same place, we're trying to like hit that sort of progression of like, you know, going through an apocalypse with the world that we're in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But I don't know, like if we were to pitch it, I think we would just say just like crazy chaos, the battle of between chaos and law, sort of with I don't know, meat magic and
lots of meat.
Carnomancy, right? Yeah.
Awesome. You know, that was one of the reasons actually where I was really excited about BX Essentials, because Gavin Norman did his complete Vivimancer book.
Right.
And I read it after we did Meatlandia, and I was like, this is so cool. This is exactly like the same sort of thing that we're trying to do. So, you know, got in touch with him after doing that, and, you know, actually did a Vivimancy edition of Meatlandia.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So just using all the spells in his book because it was so cool. But
Right.
Actually was describing Meatlandia to someone very recently, and I think I was selling it on as like, it's not a medieval city. It's massive. It's 10 million or 50 million. It's like a modern city, and it's just seething with intrigue, more than sort of like a Forgotten Realms would. You know, there's sort of like it. I mean, Meatlandia, in a way, the city is kind of alive, and actually, it has its own avatar as well. So it's really more like it's. If somebody like asked us recently, like, is everything in Meatlandia made of meat? And it's like, well, no, it's not. But if you want to say it is in your game, that's fine, whatever. Like, if that's what you need. But it's not made out of meat, but it is alive, like, you know, as though it is sort of like the city itself is a body in a way. So
Metaphorically meat.
Yeah, exactly. It's metaphorical meat.
Metaphorical meat.
Book 4.
Yeah, metaphorical meat.
Taking notes right now.
So, sort of switching gears back to the Aquatic Adventures stuff. Do you have more stories that you want to tell, or more things that you want to explore that are under the water or perhaps in space? I know sometimes they're equated as something similar for any of the games, for anything Night Owl.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've been playing a lot of Aquatic Adventures recently, and I keep coming up with ideas because, you know, we've got the adventure, the written adventure that's in there, and it's kind of a hex crawl sort of thing. But yeah, like every time I roll a random encounter, something really cool comes up, and it's like, wow, this is awesome. Like, and there's so much old school stuff, you know, so much of the second monster manual was aquatic monsters, you know, like, and there was a ton of stuff that came out in the OSE Advanced Monsters, kind of the same sort of aquatic sort of world, but there's no information, right? It's just like, here's a Triton.
Yeah, here's the stuff.
Right. And so, yeah, as I'm starting to like piece that stuff together, I'm like, it's limitless, you know, and I don't know, there's a new Aquaman movie coming out, and I'm going to watch it. I'll get really excited. So
we do have at least 20 or 30 pages kind of on the cutting room floor as well. That sort of just, we had to kind of focus a bit, even though this is going to be our biggest book. But so there's lots of things that were trimmed away. So like, if people like this, then definitely we could do something Aquatic Adventures 2, Electric Boogaloo kind of thing.
Yeah, it does come. So there's a companion zine that was part of the Kickstarter, Deluge, which is a 24-page zine with stuff from a bunch of like really, really cool creators that isn't us. And it's just more aquatic stuff. So, you know, mini adventures, generators, what else?
Lots of monsters.
Lots of monsters, tables, stuff like that. So
sure,
it's dope. It's really cool. And
Luca did a submarine. That's going to be cool.
As a world builder, what do you use to keep track of all of the things that you create?
Oh man, that's a really good question that I have a really poor answer for. I just have like 100 different Google Docs that are sort of like roughly organized every once in a while.
That's fair. Tuberdudes. What? Yeah. What is the story behind Tuberdudes?
Okay, so first of all, it's really interesting to me because people hear Tuberdudes are like, what the heck is that? But if it was called the Mushroom People, you'd be like, oh yeah, cool, Mushroom People. I like them. It's kind of weird how weird Tuberdude seems, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the aesthetic of these sort of tall, gangly, living things, and I kind of set it in a sort of analog of Central Oregon, kind of a high desert kind of fantasy world, and it was just one of those ideas that kind of wrote itself. I was like, there's some Tuberdudes, they're an army. You can kind of fight them, or you could join them if you want to. I feel like, like I want to create these really elaborate adventures, but I feel like if you give your players really more than two choices, you're just getting an analysis process. Nice, awesome, cool.
Just showing it off to everybody.
Shout out to Wind for that cover, because I was like, I had some Picasso thing I found and was like, no, I'll just make some carrots, and
my kids and I did that together.
It's nice. It's so cool. I love that cover.
Yeah, I want to throw in, I had nothing to do with the writing of Tuberdudes, but I really like the story of it. I think it's really and the name is super appropriate because it really is a Western, right? And it's like this story of like this small village where, there's so much intrigue and there's so many different factions and interests and stuff, even in the small town. And I think it works. It's so good and so concise and weird. It's still weird, right?
Oh yeah, it's still weird.
And part of it, I think there's not a whole lot of like what's a good one shot low level. Mm-hmm. I mean, like a mega dungeon's awesome, but it's a commitment, right? Like sometimes you can just get people together for a session. So it's just kind of to fill that niche.
Yeah.
And it is regional. There's some nods. So like, like Three Finger Jack and the Sisters and stuff, those are all mountains that are in Central Oregon. Sure. So
okay,
he's kind of nodding the head to, some of the local stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm always sort of like thinking about games in terms of how easily I can pick them up and teach them to people and what sort of things we can get into. Like, I really like epic campaigns when it comes to D&D, but sometimes I just want to pick something up, have one quick session, or like often we use the example of like bringing it camping. Like, hey, we're going to bring some dice. This would be awesome to do one night and just have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think Tuberdudes sort of fits that bill pretty well.
Oh, totally. That was the hope for sure. And Wynn has one called Vanilla Adventure that's a little more detailed, but it's the same kind of idea of like I can just pick this up and run an adventure.
That one I don't have, but it has like a red box sort of appeal, right? Isn't that the?
Yeah.
It was one of the first things I did. So I laid it out in Microsoft Word, and it looks like it. So.
So when is Tuberdudes going to get a sequel? Is that in the ether?
Sort of, yeah. I kind of think of it as a spiritual sequel. There's something I did called I'm the Bad Guy, where you get to play these monsters from the forest. You kind of get to pick, like there's Medusa, there's a necromancer, and you kind of go and fight these humans. And that's actually going to be coming out from Exalted Funeral at some point this year. Nice. But an actual like return to that setting, I do have some ideas, so that could happen as well. I really like using that sort of milieu, the Western fantasy kind of.
Yeah, I mean, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes had a sequel, so you got it.
Probably more than one, right?
Yeah, it does cry. It does cry out. I think it'd be absolutely appropriate to have a.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'll
Tuberdudes too.
Tuberdudes too.
What if the Tuberdudes wrote tubers out of themselves? Like,
now we're getting a little bit meta.
Inception, dudes.
So do you have any upcoming convention appearances or any of that kind of stuff that you do?
Well, we just did GaryCon, which was actually our very first convention ever.
Wow, nice. Cool.
Yeah. So never had done that sort of thing before, and our friend Eli talked us into it, and we went, and it was super cool.
Nice. Yeah. So how was the reception at GaryCon? Tell us about it.
People that we know, like from just Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, and people who've bought our books and stuff, and people whose books we've bought. So it was really cool to just get to meet people that you know who they are, but you haven't met them before.
Yeah.
It was kind of the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man meme. Because we'd be like, "Oh, I know you. I have your book," and they'd be like, "Oh, you're Meatlandia. Yeah, I have that book." And we'd be like, "Oh, cool. Like, yeah."
Yeah.
It was a blast.
Cool. No, it's good to get that kind of feedback and realize your stuff it's reaching people, and that hopefully gives you fuels the fire for the next book or the next something or
definitely
other. So,
definitely
cool. Well, good. Glad to hear you guys are getting a good reception. So where can people find you online?
NightOwlPublishing.com. That's our website.
Okay.
So. Nice. Yeah. We're on drive through as well.
Nice.
Yeah, but come to the website.
Yeah. Go there first.
NightOwlPublishing.com, and I know you guys just launched a Twitter, right?
Yeah. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're too old to figure it out anything else yet.
Yeah, we talk about TikTok every once in a while, and then we're like,
I don't get
it. There's we could get into a conversation about the space of RPGs on TikTok, but that's a conversation for another time.
I mean, I'll admit, beyond like Bookstagram, like taking a fancy shot of your like role-playing book with candles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't even get Instagram all that much. Like and why do I want to do this with candles in my book? Like,
it's pretty.
Once a week, maybe.
Yeah. I'm like, I tried it and it's didn't stick. So I don't know. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us here. This was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun. And we're big fans. Love the show.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Long-time listener, first-time podcaster.
It was great to talk to Night Owl Publishing and to get more inside scoop about some of their wonderful old school essentials games like Meatlandia, like Aquatic Adventures, like Old School and Cool, and like Tuberdudes. So drop a comment below if you have any other questions for Night Owl Publishing, or if you have any comments on our interview and on the show so far. You can find all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com. Got links to Facebook, Instagram, Spotify. Also got links to Twitter, Patreon, all that good stuff. And you can always send us a note at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com.
It's time to loot the body. So for today's Loot the Body, we're taking a look at Call of the Netherdeep, the newest Critical Role 5th edition, official 5th edition campaign book.
Before we get into it, I often feel the call of the Netherdeep. I don't know about you. Do you, Jesse?
When I heard the title, I thought it was just going to be Out of the Abyss.
Yeah,
but it is far worse in terms of horror for me.
Yes,
I've not actually played it, so I can't say whether or not it's good or bad.
Yeah,
but I am deathly afraid of the sort of deep, dark ocean horror, that sort of Cthulhu.
Well, and that's why we paired this with. That's why we paired this with Night Owl.
This has been a great experience in my horror.
Too scary.
Yeah, but this book, beyond the sort of horrorness, it does introduce like sort of general aquatic adventure themes, which I really appreciate, because Ghost of Saltmarsh had stuff that was like, quite literally surface level water stuff, like on a ship, ship combat, things like that. This is under the water, cool stuff like that. You've got some new monsters.
Oh yeah,
like the corrupted giant shark.
Yeah, great picture of this, like hammerhead shark with these like ruby crystals, like all over its body that clearly are crackling with magic. Very cool.
Terrifying.
Yeah, very cool.
And the Death's Embrace.
Right.
which is a jellyfish-like creature,
Yep.
which is equally horrifying.
Cool.
There's tons of stuff for DMs. Clearly, there's some PC rivals and other things players could use as well.
Well, and that seemed like the part of this adventure that separates it from the pack is that there's a rival adventuring party that you are sort of competing against. And I guess the opening chapter is some kind of like games competition, like a carnival type experience, where you sort of establish the fact that there's this other group of adventurers that are like the bizarro version of you, right? That are your competition, and they're presented in stat blocks in 3 different tiers. So as you level up, you encounter a tougher version of your rivals. Like I said, in 3 different tiers. So that's kind of cool. If you wanted to play a game where you had this sort of rival adventuring party, that to me, it's that and the underwater stuff is what makes this unique. And so if that appeals to you, if you want to do some underwater adventuring and you want to have a rival party, if that really clicks, then it seems like it would be a great adventure. Obviously, also if you're a Critical Role fan, right, and that's really the biggest selling point of it all, is that it's a Critical Role expansion, and so that's it. If underwater adventuring and a rival party and Critical Role, if none of those things speak to you, then this obviously is not a necessary purchase. It is a campaign book.
Yes, it is a campaign.
Obviously make the choice that's right for you. I think it's also worth noting there's no alternate cover, right?
Yes, just one cover.
Just one cover. So that's a little disappointing,
It's
right?
a little disappointing,
Right?
but I mean, it's okay. I mean, I have too many already.
I think your wallet was probably happy that month. But
So I will say that in terms of like a rival party, there's always been, DMs who have the thought and they've tried to work into their campaign the idea that the main party isn't the only adventuring group.
Right.
There have been adventurers that came before them. They won't be the last adventurers, and there's other employed adventuring groups.
Right.
And sometimes those groups might have conflicting interests.
Yep.
And where you take that as a DM, whether they are evil or they're just sort of the same mix-up as you,
Sure.
and they just have opposite goals, like that's an interesting space you can play in.
Yeah.
And now you have a sort of official rule and block to work from, a frame to work from for that. So I think that's a really big draw to this book as well.
Yeah. All right. So this has been Every Edition, your tabletop RPG talk show. Drop a comment below. Send us a note, everyeditionrpg@gmail.com, and find links to all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com. Looking forward to filming some more episodes and getting into the summer months.
Oh, yeah.
And convention season.
Yes.
So stay tuned, everybody. Thanks a lot.